Hello, my name is Maria Albornoz. I am a teaching artist with the Clay Studio, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make a coil planter. First we're going to talk about some tools we're going to be using. And I have some basic tools you can find at home, like a skewer, a plastic fork. We're going to need a couple of sponges. So I have a tiny sponge that I cut from a bigger sponge, and then an old discarded sponge that I don't use to wash dishes anymore with. Some water. I cut ribs out of a strawberry container for smoothing. String that I'm going to need to use it to cut clay with. A fabric to cover the tables with. I also have two binder clips, the really big ones, to hold the fabric down, here and here. It's not necessary if you don't have it. It just makes it a little bit better when you're rolling coils. A ruler, or in this case, a folded piece of paper. And if you have one, a rolling pin, but it's not necessary. We won't really be using it much. And a template, so something round that we can cut with. And that's it. And then, of course, clay, which I have a really big bag of clay right here, which we're going to start using in a minute. Great. So when we are starting a coil planter, or coil pot, we are going to start with I'm going to start with a pinch pot as the base of my pot. And sometimes you can start with just a slab, so just a flat piece of clay that you cut in a circle, and then you add clay to that. And I'll show you that I'm going to do that technique for the saucer of the planter. So I'm just grabbing some clay, and I'm going to shape this into a ball. And what I'm doing is my hand in a cup shape, in a cup form like this. You pound the clay. And you want to do, I think, about a pound. Should be a good size. I don't want a big planter, but I do want something decent so I can transplant a couple plants I have that have been growing over the winter. So I'm going to smooth this out. And coil building technique you can apply to anything, figurative sculpture, pots, anything. It's a very general way of building. It's a very so if you're not thinking to making a planter, you want to make something else, go ahead. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to put my thumb inside my clay, and then I'm going to squeeze my fingers like this, keeping them straight. And I'm going to pinch and turn, pinch and turn. And I'm going to keep going. I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to use both of my hands, because I want to wind this up. And make sure the bottom stays a little bit thick so it can support the weight of the clay. I want to build all at once. If you want to take your time and you don't do it all at once, you do a little bit every day. You let the clay sit, you can go much thinner. It's good size. Perfect. That's a good base. Cool. So the next thing I'm going to do is start adding coils to my bottom. And I'm going to put this to a side, and I'm going to show you guys how to make coils. So I'm just going to break some clay, squeeze it in my hands, and I'm going to show you a couple of ways of making coils. One, you can make ugly coils just by squeezing the clay like this. I call them ugly just because, they're utilitarian. I'm going to smooth my walls, so I just need to gain height, so they don't have to be pretty. Or you can squeeze clay and roll them on the table if you want perfectly round coils. Some people like to decorate their outside of the walls with a design made by the coils. And then if you're going to do something like that, of course you want your coils to be even and pretty, perfectly round. But since I'm going to smooth my walls because I just want to paint some designs on them and do some sgraffito, then I don't really need to make perfect coils because it's all going to go away. So I'm just going to go ahead and squeeze clay like this, and then I pinch my clay because I like my walls to be about a 1/4 inch thickness. And then I'm going to, so normally, and if you're building the same everything on the same day and the clay is all the same wetness, then you can just apply a coil on top and then smooth it down and then continue building. Now if you do, let's say you did the pinch pot one day and then you come back and then the next day you want to start building coils onto it. Well, since at that stage the clays are a different wetness, then I would slip and score the first coil onto my pot. And the reason we do that, the reason we scored clay to clay together when we're attaching it, is because when we have 2 pieces of clay and I stick them together, right now what's attaching them is the water in the clay. But once the water dries, when it evaporates, then they're going to fall apart. So when you attach clay to clay together, you want to make sure that you score, and then you add slip or water, and then you wiggle them together. And what this does is that the clay will do this. And then when it's shrinking, it has enough tooth that it's grabbing onto itself, and then it's not going to fall apart. Okay? So I'm going to do that, even though I don't need to, just so you can see how it works. I'm going to add my other big coil and score both of them. I'm going to score with my fork the place that I'm attaching it. Also makes it structurally sound, and since this is one piece, it's also good to do it just to be on the safe side. And then I'm going to attach my piece. Okay. Great. I'm going to add another coil. I'm going to pinch this one. And then I'm going to head and I'm going to start smoothing my walls together. And what I'm doing is, these 2 coils are like this, and what I'm going to do is push with my thumb down the coil like this to unify them. Okay, and I'm going to do that on the inside, and then I'm going to do that on the outside. And always support the opposite side that you're working on. Sometimes you gotta go, there's no specific direction. What I pretty much do is, if whatever's sticking out is what I push down. So if this one's sticking out here, then I would then do this. You just want to make sure that they are sufficiently smooth. The more you smooth, the more structurally sound your walls are going to be. The stiffer the clay is going to be, and just easier to build. Okay, and then I'm going to move to the outside. For the outside, I'm going to stand up so I can see what I'm working on. And I'm going to show you here. What I'm doing is that I'm pushing the clay like this over like that. You want to do that all around your entire pot before you start adding more coils. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to keep doing it. Okay, then I'm going to add my sample coil. It's pretty as good as any. Maybe another one here. There we go. And I pre-made some coils so I can just add. I'm actually going to pull this one off and I'm just going to use my pre-made coils. Move the coil down, and I usually would say to do maybe 2 or 3 coils and then smooth, and then 2 or 3 coils and then smooth. Perfect shape. Great. And then maybe I'll add a couple more coils and then that'll be it. Then we'll start smoothing. And I don't want to go too fast because I don't want my coil pot losing its bottom. So sometimes if you build too quickly, the weight will start pushing the piece down, the weight of the clay. So you want to make sure that you build slowly, or just maybe not too slow, but you want to take your time. So I'm just going to head and smooth my piece as I'm working. Let it a little bit, let this part stiffen up a little bit. I'm going to clean my rib that I made from a strawberry box that I cut out. Okay, move all of this so it doesn't stick to my pot. What I'm doing is that I'm holding the rib like this to push my clay, smooth it out, even it out. I'm going to do the same thing on the inside. Smooth this out a little bit more before I use the rib. And then after this, I'm going to let it sit for a bit while I work on the saucer to let it breathe and stiffen up a little bit. Again, I want to be cautious that it doesn't sink in and I lose my pinch pot bottom. Okay, so I'm going to put this to the side, and then we are going to work on the base. So the base, my saucer, I'm going to make it with a slab. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clump up my clay. And I want to make a flat piece that I can cut into and make a little plate. And that is going to show you the other technique to do when you're working on coil building, the other bottom. Hold my fabric down. And this is good. And then I'm going to use something round that I have around the house that I can use as a template, so I can cut a circle. And I have this soup container, and I think I dropped my skewer. And I'm going to trace my soup container. And then cut it off and peel it out. That's great. I'm going to clamp this up because I'm going to use it for more coils. Okay, and now I have a small slab. I'm going to smooth out a little bit. And then I'm going to add some coils to the edge to make a little dish. And not necessarily this has to be a way to make, it's just another style of making dishes. I mean, there's a million ways that you can make this. You can just do another pinch pot and then just wind it up a little bit more instead of keeping it more in a cup shape. To add coils, I'm going to add coils this time on the edge instead of on the top, like I was doing with the coil pot. So I'm going to score my coils. Add a little bit of water, not too much. Pretty much like to work dry, as dry as I can. And I'm going to squeeze it in. A bit of clay. Go right here, break that up. Okay, and then I'm going to push my clay down with my index finger. Great, I'm going to push this out and smooth it. I'm going to add one more, maybe a couple more coils. Let's make it a little tall. Sometimes I overwater plants, so I want to make sure that my saucer is tall enough to hold all the clay, all of the water I mean. So normally I would place the coil right on top, but what I'm going to do is place the coil on the side so my plate opens up a little bit like this. So I'm thinking of is making, instead of like a flat plate, I'm just going to do sort of like a shallow bowl. Okay, so I'm going to place the coil right at the edge of the rim of the previous coil. Okay, it's always great. I always recommend to do maybe roll a couple, maybe 10 coils at a time, so you don't have to break your rhythm. You make all the coils, then you build, then you stop and make more coils, and that way your work dries a little bit, stiffens up a little bit, and then go back to building again. Great, and then I'm going to work on the rim and my edges, always supporting. So far so good. Now we're going to do the outside. So now I'm going to push the clay down with my thumb, like this, all around. Perfect. And then I want to use my rib. Clean it up. And then I'm going to push the clay and smooth it. I'm going all the way from the bottom up. Okay, so we are going to continue to smooth our saucer. And if sometimes your clay cracks a little bit, don't worry about it. Just push clay over the crack and you'll be fine. And I'm just smoothing out the rim, the edge of my pot. You always want to make sure that you hold onto it when you're pressing down. Like this. I'm going to really quickly measure to see how it's doing size-wise. And that looks like it's going to work. Yeah, that's going to be nice. Okay. Might be a little on the wide side. I kind of wanted to fit a little bit more tight. So I'm going to close it in a little bit. Lift it up a little higher. Smooth around the back. And then I got my kitchen sponge, which is a different kitchen sponge. This is not the one I used to clean my kitchen, my dishes. I just sort of grabbed a new one. Well, it's pretty old, but there we go. Sometimes your best rib is your fingers. It's your best tools. this is pretty much good. I just want it to be, try it one more time. That's pretty good. My pot is still too soft, so we are going to let it sit for a little longer and stiffen up before I can continue working on it. Great. Well, I've been letting my coil pot dry for a bit, and now I'm going to continue to smooth and probably maybe add a couple of more coils at the top. I wanted to make it this height, the height of my peeper. So I think I should go maybe one more or two more coils, and that should be good. So I have wrapped up everything, so my work didn't dry. My coils didn't dry while we were waiting. And I'm just gonna, now because I've been left this to dry, I'm going to score my next coil because I covered my coil. So now my coil is softer than my clay. It hasn't been that long, but you know, it's always good to take precautions. I'm going to add my final coil. Perfect. And I'm going to smooth it down and over my slightly drier piece. I'm going to add a little bit of clay in some of the areas inside the pot that I find might be a little thinner than others. And I'm going to smooth it out. Okay. Use my rib. Okay, so I'm going to smooth my extra coil that I added, my last one, work on the top, finish cleaning it off, and then that should be it for this piece. So what I'm doing is making sure the two pieces are unified. On the inside, it's not fully smoothed out yet. this over. Gotta keep making sure that my bottom, my foot stays this way. And I'm going to smooth. Finish cleaning up my walls. And since I'm not supporting them from the opposite side, I gotta make sure I don't press too hard. I don't want to warp my walls. This would be a lot easier if we had a banding wheel or a lazy Susan that we can move the pot around instead of us having to move around the pot. But we work with what we got, make the best of it, right? Okay. And I also, since I have it facing down, I'm going to do my holes, my drainage holes. Perfect. I'm going to smooth this out. When you do something like that, you're always going to push clay on the other side. So you're going to have to smooth that out, and I'm going to show you right now. So we have that going on. So I'm going to smooth that. Push a little bit of clay over. And then I'm going to, with my finger, move that to the sides, that extra clay. I think that's stretched out. And then smooth it over with my fingers, smooth it out. Blend it. Okay, and then I'm going to add some attention to my rim because my rim is a little flimsy. Some areas are very uneven. Because I want a nice clean look, I'm going to add a little bit of clay to some areas just to even it out so it looks visually a little bit more organized. You always want to support your walls when you're doing this. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to add a little bit of extra clay right there. As long as you're smoothing it together, you don't have to slip and score. Okay, let's see. So when I'm cleaning my pieces off, I always like to have it elevated at an eye level so then I can see my edges better. Since I don't have that right now, I'm going to actually get on my knees so I can be at eye level to my pot, and with a moist fingertips I'm going to finish cleaning off all of my edges. Just pressing in, making sure all of the marks from the ribs and any little area that I've missed before is smoothed out inside and out. Just notice a little area here. Great. Notice I missed a big spot here. Okay, great. And now I'm going to lay this down facing down so it finishes drying out, and then I'll have my nice planter. Looks like it's perfect. So this will be let's take a peek, see if it fits. That's lovely. That's what I was going for. Perfect. So now we're going to let this completely dry, and when classes start up again at the clay studio, then you'll be able to fire your work. Thank you so much for watching my coil planter demonstration.